If not, she knows she can get into the arts and sciences breakout room, and then we'll be able to have you meet her there. I wanted to start, and I'll leave this up to you as panelists who wants to answer it, but a few questions that were pre-submitted by some of our students or their family members. So at what point can a student add a second major?
Before they graduate.
Is there a deadline that they need to do it by?
I don't think any of us have a hard deadline. I mean, what you need to do is you need to have acquire the coursework that you need to have earned the second major or minor. And then, normally you'd want to declare it the semester before you graduate. But the sooner you declare it, the better, because then you actually get an advisor in that area, which can give you some advice. So I have seen students earn it at the very last second like that, but it is better if you declare it earlier than later. I don't know that we don't have a deadline. Do either of you have deadlines?
We in Sam Fox, we don't have a fast deadline on that, but we do suggest that you start giving serious thought to that within your second year. But it's all the reasons that Chris said. It's for planning purposes, so that we can then get you connected to that advisor and help you plan out those courses. Because oftentimes it doesn't come down to a problem of the number of credits, it's a scheduling issue. Because all of our programs are intensive experiential learning opportunities that can take classes can conflict with each other. And so if you have those varied interests, that can be the thing. So the earlier that you sort of decide, the better. But however, I think all of us would agree, feel free to take that first year to explore. Like, you don't have to immediately have identified a second major or minor, but you do start thinking about the areas you're interested in. Take some intro classes outside of your major, and then you might find something you really love, and then you might want to pursue that.
Before I ask, I have two more questions. Before I ask those, I did want to introduce Jennifer Romney, who's the Associate Dean from the College of Arts and Sciences, and she is here to answer all of your wonderful arts and sciences questions. So my next question is related a little bit to like when you can add or at what point you should be adding your second major. If a student adds a minor, but then later decides they want to switch it to a second major, is that possible? And what's that process?
It is definitely possible. Really declaring majors and minors in our current system are really just a few clicks through WebStack, and you can declare a second major or minor. You can also drop a second major or minor, or switch a major to a minor, or vice versa, without any mark or indication of not completing something on your official transcript. So it's really quite easy to switch. But again, as both Joseph and Chris mentioned, it goes back to planning, right? So if you're thinking you're doing a minor but are going to enhance it to a second major, you just really need to be having those conversations with someone to ensure that you can't complete it in a timely manner.
I'd say
This last question, oh, sorry.
There is a caveat there, which is you just have to be careful that sometimes minors do not have a second major. So like in architecture, for example, we do allow minors, but we don't have a second major in architecture. And so there are some other across the campus as well, where you just want to make sure you pay attention to that. So if there is a second major and a minor, it is capable of moving from a minor to a second major, but sometimes they don't exist.
And I think too, just that sometimes the minor and major are structured very, very differently from each other. So in arts and sciences, they tend to start out the same and then just grow. And it's a matter of additional advanced courses. That's really the sole difference between a major and a minor and a major, is the number of additional advanced courses. But that's not the case for all of the schools. So I think it really does bear some exploration, or at least just understanding what the options are and where they branch off earlier rather than later.
And then my last pre-submitted question is also a planning question, I would guess. What impact does double majoring have on study abroad? And that was the question that was asked. So what impact does double majoring have on study abroad? But my follow-up to that is, can you study abroad for your second major or minor program, or can you only study abroad with your primary major program?
For arts and sciences, first or second major is fine. We want it to be attached to an academic program of your study abroad decision and your study abroad choice to be attached to an academic program, but whether it's the first major, the second major, or even, a minor, that's between you and study abroad office, and we're all for it.
I think my answers are always, it depends. And so I think part of it too is to think about study abroad means multiple things, because there's semester long study abroad and then there's summer study abroad programs. And so sometimes it's easier to do, say, a summer program in a second major than it might be for some semester long. So the answer is it depends and probably. And so that's when you want to talk to those advisors within both programs to figure out, because oftentimes if it's attached to the major or second major, there's a recommended semester by which the program might exist, or there might be ones that are a little more flexible on what semester or summer program that you go into.
All these are great questions, and all of you have four-year advisors, and your four-year advisors are a wealth of information. A lot of these are dependent upon which things that you're selecting. So there's some general information we can provide here that is generalizable, but a lot of it is dependent upon which specific things that you select. And that's where your four-year advisor can come in that you're meeting with this summer to kind of guide you. And if your four-year advisor doesn't know the answer, they can connect you with the other people in other areas that can. I mean, all of us on here have great relationships. We see each other a lot. We interact a lot together. And that's one of the things that makes Warshoe a great place. It's just so darn collaborative.
And Chris, you answered for us. You didn't know this, but the question that we got about that was in the live Q&A is if you could recommend on when a student would want to take a second major in a different school versus perhaps apply to internal divisional transfer into that second school. And the answer, to echo what Chris said, is really dependent on the situation and something you should talk to your four-year advisor about, and they can connect you with the other schools as you're making that informed decision. We're going to now move to the portion of the evening where we break out into Zoom rooms for each of the academic divisions. So we're going to say goodbye to my wonderful colleagues and students and families. If you can wait just in this Zoom for one moment, we're going to share some links with you in the chat and let my colleagues in the schools leave this Zoom for a moment. They're going to go start their own. So they're going to disappear off our screen here for a second. So let's give them a minute to close this one and open their own Zoom rooms. If you would like to join more than one academic division this evening, like you're thinking, I'm both interested in art as well as business, or I'm interested in both computer science and McKelvey and architecture. You might not have time to go to both of those sessions this evening, but they're all being recorded, and we're going to post the recordings of that on our website at families.worcester.edu sometime late next week. And so while you might not be able to make it into all of those Zoom rooms this evening to hear about the curriculum from each of the schools and the opportunities in them, we will make sure that you can get that information. And then lastly, a reminder that our next webinar is a conversation with Student Financial Services, and it's Tuesday, July 11th at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, and you can register for that webinar at families.worcester.edu. So hopefully I have delayed enough with giving you some snippets of information that you can now head out of this Zoom into the ones by the academic divisions. They'll be expecting you shortly. So you're going to click on one of the links that we have in the chat here to choose which academic division you want to follow, and they're going to answer some specific questions about their schools or colleges.
I see we still have a few attendees with us. If you're having any issues joining one of those links, please go ahead and raise your hand. If not, click on those links in the chat and join those separate meetings. Okay, I see there's two of you left. Let me know, raise your hand if you need help joining the separate meetings. Hi, Amelia, how can I help?
Hi, sorry, I just got on here